time with God. 2 weeks ago, give or take a few days, it was a Monday, and Jacob and I had gone to a job. We were supposed to do what's called a block fill. So when people build new houses, if they use cinder block for the foundation, we fill them with concrete. So we took our pump hose up there and fill it up. Now this contractor had put us off for about 2 weeks. He'd say, we want you to come and do this block fill. Then he'd say, well, the job site's not ready. So the Friday before, he and I texted. He said they're putting the road in right now. Sunday, I texted him that afternoon, are we still a go for the morning? He says yes. So Jacob and I drive out there, and it's a half mile of mud. So I call the concrete plant, and I cancel concrete before they could batch it and get it out there. And I called the contractor, and I said, the road is not in. I don't know what your guys did wrong, but I've had to cancel concrete because we won't be able to get trucks in and out of there. No, don't cancel, he says. I've got 70 tons of stone on the way, coming right now. Go ahead and pull in there and we'll take care of it. There's a bulldozer out there, and there's a dump truck out there, and more dump trucks are coming. So, it's very muddy. This is down by Sullivan Gardens. We pulled through the mud. I've got it in four-wheel drive. We get the truck to a flat spot on top of the hill. The pump is behind us. And it was one of those fall mornings 2 weeks ago where the warmest part of the day was before the sun rose. So it was about 50 degrees when we got there, but it was down in the 30s before we left. And it starts to sprinkle the moment we park the truck. And then it starts to rain. And the temperature is dropping. And it's getting cold. And the stone that was supposed to be delivered is running late. So these ready-mix trucks with all-wheel drive, you've seen the kind where the chute is in the front going down the road, the front axle's live. They can't get through, and the bulldozer is pulling them up to the pump, and I'm thinking, we're never going to get out of here. And at the end of the day, it was just plain brutal. And Jacob looked like, have you ever tried to, when you were younger, bathe a cat? He sat in the passenger seat. He wouldn't even look at me. He said, Dad, I am begging you, don't ever take a job like this again. You should have run the other way. And he was very somber and serious. Anyway, as we pulled away, I realized it's days like that show a person what they're made of. Had I known ahead of time, I probably would have been the opinion that Jacob had, was let's leave and let's do it another day. Not even a couple weeks ago, whenever it was that my mom had the stroke, Tammy and I, our older boys, we drove down to Missouri, and we left Sunday afternoon. I wanted to leave Sunday morning. It's so hard to pull yourself away from family, especially, when you've got a loved one in the hospital. We didn't get on the road till 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So we didn't get into Kingsport till 3 in the morning, and I had to get up at 5 so that we could go pump. So I drove all weekend, emotionally exhausted from being with my mom. 2 hours of sleep, and Jacob and I worked all day. And, oh man, this is exhausting, but in backing up, you would look at it and you'd say, there's just no way I could do this. And then you found yourself in those situations, whatever it may be. It may be something physically exhausting, it may be something emotionally exhausting, it may be something spiritually exhausting. And before you got into it, you'd say, no thank you, I don't want any part of that. And if you had a choice, you wouldn't do it. But once you come through it on the other side, we say, was it valuable? Did we grow from it? Was it good for us? In fact, I'm of the opinion some of the hardest circumstances I have ever faced in this life have proven to shape me the most. Things I wouldn't want to go through, things I would run from. When our metal is tested, which by the way isn't spelled the same as precious metals, right? It's METTEL. When our metal is tested, that's when we really know what we are made of. When it comes to Christianity, Boy, I'd love a volunteer for this one right now. Can I just slap you as hard as I can? I mean, would you like one of these paws just to rough up against your face? Wow. It's easy to say I could turn the other cheek until you're slapped. Jesus says, love your enemies. So that's really easy when you're surrounded by friends and people who are good to you. The principles of Christianity are tested when those who love you the most betray you the worst. No one wants to go through that. When people are hurting us and mistreating us. So, when Drew and Zach were little, I used to take them on these long bike rides. We lived in these apartments, Heritage Hill Apartments. And I would take them on these long bike rides through Naperville. And then when Jacob came along, we got one of those bike trailers that you pull behind the bike. And I wore out 2 sets of tires on that trailer between Jacob and Clay when they were little. And I loved teaching my kids how to ride a bike. But I never let them go as 12-year-olds with training wheels. I think the neighbors probably would have laughed at them. I would have felt like I was not doing my job as a parent. It's when we face hostility, listen, it's when we face rejection, it's when we face problems that we know our training wheels are coming off in our Christian faith. We lived in Searcy, Arkansas for 2 years when I went to college there. And our reference point, our major analogy, the big metaphor for Searcy is it's a bubble. It's a dry county. Everybody is a member of the church in that town, right? If you work at Walmart, if you're a professor, whatever, it's a bubble. It's not, quote unquote, the real world. It's easy to live out the Christian faith when you're sitting in this room, or is it? I imagine there's things I say that you disagree with. I hope so. Because if we all think the same, then one of us isn't necessary here. And I imagine there's times that I probably make you mad and offend you. And you're sinning then. No, I'm just kidding. When we're surrounded by like-minded people, when we're surrounded by people with the same goal, it is motivating, it is energizing, but that's not testing our faith. And before I go any further, suffering and persecution are not the only way that our faith is tested. Abraham Lincoln reportedly said that almost, how does it word it here? Nearly all men can suffer adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. So it's not just the bad things in life that can test our faith. Proverbs 27, verse 21, the crucible is for silver and the furnace for gold, and a man is tested by his praise. Proverbs has a lot to say about flattery and the problem with it. Most of us want to appear strong. Most of us want to appear smart. Most of us want to appear capable, and very few of us are willing to be vulnerable. And I don't know anyone that willingly wants to submit to the fires of refinement. Peter's talking to some people here about the fires of refinement. What do we know about Peter? History tells us he was a fisherman. Scriptures teach he was a fisherman. Worked in a family business. He was probably quick-tempered. Probably flew off lots of times. Shot from the hip. Probably very impulsive. Seemed to be very dedicated to Jesus. But he's Jewish. No. Jewish background. No. Those provinces that Laura read to us, places like Pontus and Cappadocia, Galatia, Bithynia. Do we know where those are? That's Asia Minor. That's where modern-day Turkey is. Think about it for a moment. When you think of New Testament Christianity springing forth. Places come to your mind like Jerusalem, right? Day of Pentecost. Or you think of Paul in Acts 17 talking to the Greeks at Mars Hill. You think of people who are Greek. You think of people in the Holy Lands and in between where Greece is and Israel, modern day Turkey. That's who he's writing to, but he's not writing to Jewish people. Most of the New Testament, you have Jewish authors speaking to people with Jewish backgrounds, and here Peter is talking to people like you and me. We're not really, I don't know anyone here with a very Jewish background. He's talking to people who would be Gentiles, non-Jewish people. And it's something very important to say to him. Here's the Christmas tree. What are we in right now? What season are we in? Christmas season, right? The holiday season. We just had Thanksgiving not that long ago. So you maybe at work have Christmas parties or you have families getting together. And what will you do when you get together? Eat. So January 1st, everyone is going to be where?
In the gym.
In the gym, right? Isn't it interesting? Following the holidays and New Year's resolution, gym memberships increase, right? That's just what we do. As a culture, we want the six-pack abs. I settled for the 2-liter long ago, but we want the six-pack abs, but we don't want to have to do the diet or the exercise. That's kind of how our culture is. We want the trophies without having to actually exert the energy in the trial to win that trophy. We want the degree without having to study. Long have I had that debate with professors that had honorary doctorates. Call me Dr. So-and-so. I said, but wait a minute, was that an honorary doctorate? Is that real? We want the Christianity without the cross. Jesus says in Luke 9:23, he said to all, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Have you ever wondered, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why is hoping for or asking for a pain-free, suffering-free faith? Why would that be detrimental to my faith or my growth? God loved me. Surely I wouldn't have any aches or pains or sickness or problems. Everyone would be good to me. Everything would be going great. My life would reflect nothing at all the life of Jesus. Think about it. Asking for a pain-free, perfect path doesn't help us grow. C.S. Lewis was of the opinion that we are in a soul-making universe. So Christianity for years has debated this topic of why is there evil and suffering in the world. And basically there are 3 camps that come out on this. One is that we have free will, and people misuse that free will. One is this is God's ordained path. He causes these things to happen. Who are you as the clay to say to the potter? And then C.S. Lewis said we are in a soul-making universe. So when we experience these things, it shapes us, it molds us, it causes character development. At its root, to ask for a pain-free existence, a problem-free existence, denies the narrative of Scripture that says you are in a battle, you are in a fight, you are in a struggle between good and evil. And to say that my life will always be good is to deny the premise that in the garden there was who? Satan, right? He is already there. Oh, did God really say you can't eat from all of this fruit? Come on. It's good. Look at it. Oh, have some. Basically, from day one, we have been in a battle of good and evil. Jesus fights the battle of good and evil. Jesus comes back to finally conquer the battle of good and evil. He is the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. He is the Alpha and the Omega. And in between those bookends, we're in a battle. And so, to hope naively that I'm never going to have an argument with my spouse, or that I'm never going to have the water shut off, or I'm never going to be diagnosed with some sickness, or whatever it may be that fills your life, is to deny reality. So, we want to be stronger, we want to appear more capable, we want to appear like we have it all together, but if you're married or dating or whatever, have you ever been in a meaningful relationship? One that really had significance, one that was really solid and legitimate, where you were completely guarded all the time, where the armor stayed up. In other words, where you are never vulnerable with that other person. I would say I don't think that's possible. I don't think we can live that way. And so, admitting weaknesses or being vulnerable is not the equivalent of being helpless. I don't think God wants any of us to act helpless, to feel helpless, to be helpless, but I think He wants us to be submissive. I think He wants us to acknowledge the weaknesses that we carry with us. Sometimes those weaknesses cause problems. So Peter, Jewish fisherman, writing to these people who are in exile, they are wanderers, they are aliens. He tells them in verse 3, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, according to His great mercy, has caused us to be born again to a living hope." He has given us a new birth. There is a before and there is an after for you. Now, I know we're in December. November 21st, 1993, I was baptized. So I've been a Christian for 25 years now. And for my life, I can look back and I can say, here's Craig, BC, before Christ. Here is Craig, afterwards. Everything changes. So, all right, you've had a fight with your spouse, you got fired from work, you made a mistake, your GPA tanked, whatever it is in life, and you said, boy, I wish I had a second chance. Born again is that second chance that never ends. You know, 1 John chapter 1, verses 7 through 10 talks about if we are in the light as He is in the light, we have fellowship one with another. And the blood of His Son sometimes cleanses us. Once in a while cleanses us? No. John says continually cleanses us. Right? So we all want a second chance in life. We all want, get to a point in life, I don't know what age it may be, you say, oh, I wish I could go back and do such and such over. There's nothing more important than that do-over, that second chance with our relationship with God. And so Peter says, look, you're born again, but here's something that you probably haven't thought about in a while. All right, so we all like this idea, I'm born again, I want to be born again, being born again is great. In the New Testament, being born again is directly tied to the death, burial, or resurrection. It's never about hopeful wishes. It's never about good intentions. It's never about, oh, I'm just going to say this prayer and I hope that God, can hear me out and know that I submit to Jesus and I believe in Him. No, being born again is always tied to the idea of the death, burial, or resurrection. So Peter says, right, He caused us to be born again to a living hope. How? He gave us this new birth and new living hope. How? Through the resurrection of Jesus. From the dead and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This is the inheritance kept in heaven for you. It's through, so your second chance, you're being born again, this new leaf, this new page, this whatever you want to call it, this experience with God where everything in the past has been washed away, all your mistakes have been accounted for and atoned for, it's through the resurrection. And now it's time for the path through the rose garden, right? Well, no, not quite. It's not exactly how it works. So, number one, I want to make sure I clarify that We never lose sight of the fact that being born again is tied to the death, burial, and resurrection. You guys got that, right? Now I want to clarify another big misconception. So, Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me, and you say, oh, that's my wicked mother-in-law, that's the cross I have to bear. Or, it's the whatever problem person in the family, or it's, my sore back, whatever, I've got my cross to bear. So, the big question I think people wrestle with is, when I suffer, should I be glad I'm suffering? Peter's going to say, suffering's good for you. I'm going to say, suffering is good for you. Because Peter says it, he knows more than me. But should I be glad that I'm suffering? Should I enjoy the suffering? So I think that's the big confusion. Let's look at this and see if it won't become a little bit clearer. So, verse 5, God's power being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed last time. All right, verse 6, in this you rejoice. Now that sounds sick. How does this translation have? Verse 6, in all this you greatly rejoice. All right? Though for now, a little while, you might have to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. Well, we're rejoicing in the fact that we're born again. We're rejoicing that there are some results that come through the suffering. The Bible doesn't say, be glad you're in pain right now. The Bible doesn't say, you should like to be hurt. You should enjoy the fact that right now you feel like you're in a vice and someone is cranking it tight on you. Be glad that your loved ones just completely stabbed you in the back. No. We should rejoice in the fact that we're born again. We should rejoice that there are good results from our suffering, but we're not sick, we're not twisted. We're going to say, oh yeah, give me some more pain. But there's something good in the process. So in this rejoice, though for now, a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested, verse 7, the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. So, there's a proven genuineness to your faith that you won't have until you experience times that are very uncomfortable, very much unwanted, very yucky, icky, horrible feeling, and yet there's a provenness. Provenness, listen, removes, I don't want to say one of the greatest obstacles to our faith, because that's not right. Provenness removes the doubt. I would be surprised if you haven't had any doubts in your faith. There are times where I love to read books by people who are just flat out, they're not bad people, but they're evolutionists who have no view of the supernatural. They don't believe in an afterlife at all, but they share some great insight into the world that we live in. And I read this, I think, these guys are so intelligent. They are so articulate. This book is so great. How could he be so wrong? Wait, he's not wrong. What if I'm wrong, right? So, you have to wrestle with those things. But the way that we remove those doubts is proving the genuineness of our faith. Which if we only look for the good and we always avoid the bad, it's hard to see. And if you only look at the things that surround you, it's hard. Peter will go on to say, verse 8, though you have not seen him what? You love him. So you believe in a guy that you've never met? You've never seen him. You've never had coffee with Jesus, have you? Something's wrong with you. I can only believe in the things I can see, hear, taste, smell, and touch, right? Wrong. You've not seen him, but you love him. Even though you do not see him now, you believe in him, and you're filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy for you receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. We cannot you can't let the circumstances around you, you can't let the things that you see and experience only determine your faith. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 Now, faith is the assurance of the things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. This wedding ring has been on my hand since I was 19 years old. Now, I might be able to get it off today, but there are a lot of days where you can't see this side of the ring, you can only see this side of the ring, because my fat hands swell up over it. Been on there since I was 19. Well, actually, I might not be able to get it off today. Tammy bought this under the assumption that there's at least a percentage of gold in this. How do I know that? How many of you are wearing jewelry right now? Okay. Anyone wearing gold or silver? Women, take it off, because, right, that's a sin. No precious earrings or braided hair or whatever, right? Okay, you're wearing jewelry right now. Have any of you ever melted it down to make sure that what you bought was pure? No, because it's what? Too expensive. It's too melted. I could never melt that down. Are you crazy? That's my wedding ring. That's my expensive watch. That's my nice earrings my grandma gave me. So you just trust? I've got a bridge I'm trying to sell. We don't ever melt down our jewelry. No, we go on trusting in faith. When I was in college, I had to take a class called kinesiology. And I didn't know I had to take gen ed classes. I thought I was just taking preaching classes. But I remember two things from my kinesiology class. One, the professor saying, never get an electric can opener. No matter what your spouse says, always make them use a hand one. I don't remember what his point was. But two, I remember we had to do a, what is it called where you test your body percentage fat? Huh? Yeah, they did the caliper. What was that? What's the initial? PMI? BMI. Body mass index. So, when I went to college, I was in good shape. After that, I don't know, my metabolism shut down and I put on 50 pounds and it was never the same after that. But I remember asking the professor, how do we know that's accurate? He said, we don't. He said, the only accurate measure of your BMI is an autopsy. He said, everything else is close. But the only accurate, and I don't need an I don't want to know that bad, right? So you don't know the purity of the gold till it goes through the fire. Just like you don't know how faithful you were until you were hit the hardest.